Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Ba-da-dum. Good morning. Hi. You're very welcome. So let's take a comfortable seat. So sit down, sit on the floor if that's comfortable. If you're sitting on the floor, break a cushion, whatever works for you, or sit up in a chair. Either is perfect. And when you get there, we're going to close our eyes. And then this closing of the eyes is just to bring the attention inward and to notice what's in there for us, what's going on. So this entire world happening for us internally all of the time. And for most of us, a lot of the time, our tendency, or what we could argue is necessity, is that we're focused on the exterior, that we're doing what we need to do. And of course, this is, such a big part of particularly our Western way of being in the world. You know, traditionally, the Eastern world has this more contemplative aspect woven through it. And of course, we, particularly in this country as Irish, would have a huge history of that as well. But a lot of it has been stamped out, you know, for various reasons. But we would have a rich history of exploring this inner world and really holding this practice as something very sacred to what we are, both in terms of our identity as a tribe, a community, and equally in terms of our sense of what life is. And I think for a lot of us, when we focus primarily on the exterior experience, which of course, you know, is important, and, you know, bills need to get paid and all of that. But when we are overly focused on the exterior world, our cup empties. We just get worn out. That we get into a habit or a loop or a predicament of looking for our sense of fulfillment from our exterior experience. And although it can offer us a lot of that kind of sense of fulfillment, the deepest sense of fulfillment that we long to experience, that sense of deep belonging that we all yearn for, that is so woven into our deep sense of contentment or happiness, comes from our connection to the inner realm, to the inner experience. So the practice of yoga has always been about this idea of balance, balanced action, the idea of, yes, we're in the exterior, and that's represented through the movement we do through our bodies, through how we work with this container. And then there's this invitation to turn to this inner place, this inner realm, this inner world. And for many of us, even as we sit here, it can be uncomfortable because we're just not used to doing it. It's like anything we try to do more or less that we haven't done before, that we're not used to doing, that's breaking a habit of how we are within ourselves. There's going to be a bit of resistance. There's going to be a quality of discomfort to it. But knowing that that's the case then allows us to compensate for it, to kind of know, okay, this is a bit uncomfortable. I can feel a bit out of my, comfort zone. And that's perfectly normal. And that's the way it should be. It's all good. So we're sitting, we close our eyes. The attention is on the breath. Breathing through your nose, if you can. Breathing through your nose. So I really encourage you to begin to breathe through the nose more and more and more of the time. That's what the nose is designed for. The mouth is not designed. Really. And there is practices in which we will breathe consciously through the mouth. But really watch and observe when you're breathing through the mouth, because quite often what it will mean is that the sympathetic nervous system, that protective quality in the nervous system, is overactive. So when you bring the attention back to breathing through the nose, it begins to develop the parasympathetic, and it begins to regulate all of these different systems in the body and bring them back into harmony and optimal alignment. So you'll notice breathing through the nose just will take longer. It instinctively is slower. So just notice the breath. Notice the inhalation, the exhalation. And I'm going to ask you to deepen your breath. To inhale and exhale for a count of 6 seconds. Now, if you find that's too long, you shorten it. So most important is you're not stressed. It doesn't feel like it's something that's too difficult to do. So you can decide the closest you can get to 6. Maybe it'll be 4 or 5 if it's not 6. And then count it slow, steady. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the same with the exhalation. And if you notice it's too difficult and you're kind of struggling at any point, just shorten the number. Perfect. All of this work is training. It's all a work in progress. It's a movement from A to B in a sense. So we'll get there in terms of developing our capacity to breathe in different ways, and it's just working a particular muscle. But don't force yourself. So just notice the breath, breathing through the nose. Slow and steady breath. And as you're aware of the breath and you're breathing in this way, and the idea is the breath can anchor the awareness, you're also going to be aware of whatever else is there for you this morning. You know, the feelings, the sensations, maybe it's a bit angsty, a bit uncomfortable, maybe you're frustrated, maybe not. But just to notice what's there and to be aware that it's just stuff moving through you. Even if you are uncomfortable, even if it is challenging, in one sense, that's fine. Do you know, emotions move through us. Sometimes they're difficult, but ultimately they arise and they pass away. And what we're really interested in connecting through our practice is the part that is there witnessing all of this dance, all of this movement, be it the breath coming and going, the emotions coming and going, the sensations coming and going. Just observing and noticing. And if it gets too much, you just adjust. Shorter breaths, if you need to move a little, and then come back. So there's nothing you have to do. This is not about, I have to get to this, I have to stay still, you're just practicing, you're observing. It's a game at the end of the day. Stay with it. If you need to move, if something needs to happen, that's perfect, and you come back. And all of that's allowed, all of it's perfectly acceptable. And all of it's appropriate. Whatever it is that might come up for you, brilliant. You let it come, you observe it, you notice it, and you let it go. We stay with the breath. We're going to do another 2 minutes breathing in this way. Slow, long, deep breath through the nose. Perfect. Stay with your breath. And stay with the breath. Nearly there. So after the next longer exhalation, let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Perfect. And then slowly opening the eyes. Great. So obviously this part, particularly at the beginning of a practice, is or tends to be the most challenging. You know, when we're really inviting and orchestrating a kind of a setup in which we're moving into a quieter space. The parts of us that are a little edgy, that are a little uncomfortable, they're going to show themselves more easily when we begin to move into a quieter environment. So, you know, in one sense, we're meeting what we're carrying around, and it's not always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to be easy. But what we're practicing and learning through these type of systems, through this idea of yoga, this technology of yoga, is how to meet ourselves more and more skillfully. So quite often when things are uncomfortable, when things are going off internally, it's really easy to kind of play it out. And the idea is, if we play it out, we, in a sense, feed a lot of the angst or the uncomfortable stuff that moves through us. We kind of give it energy. When we're coming into this kind of a setup and we're just pausing and we're noticing and we're just kind of feeding the awareness muscle that can observe what it is that's moving through us, we're actually taking energy away from a lot of the uncomfortable stuff that moves through us, and we're bringing it toward the part of us that is able to kind of observe and maintain a kind of a, let's say, a bigger perspective, a wider perspective. And the more we do that, the more the uncomfortable moments will become much more comfortable, really, much more acceptable. So the kind of the metaphor that's often used is this idea of having a glass of water, and you put a teaspoon of salt in it and you mix it up, and if you were to take a drink of it, that water would be really, really salty. But if you could imagine you had an ocean of water and you put a teaspoon into it and you tasted it, you wouldn't notice the salt. And the same quality is developing in terms of our internal experience, that through these practices, we turn into the ocean, we become more spacious. So the stuff that's in us, the discomfort or the uncomfortable stuff that's moving through us, moving through all of us, because it's part of being a human being, becomes less important or less of a, you know, usurper of our energy or a you know, kind of a creator of drama. And so it's just a way of beginning to really grow the part of us that is able to be with ourselves more easily. Yeah, and that it goes for all of us. You know, again, this idea that as being a human being, all of us have stuff. We all have shadow. We all have, you know, that's what it is to be a human. So there's no idea, there's no perfect in a sense. So even as you're doing the practices, you know, quite often we think, oh, my mind needs to be quiet, or I need to be able to stay still. Nonsense. It's all about being where we are. And that calls for what we could call a radical acceptance of how we are in any given moment, both how we are in the moment and how the moment is arising itself, and really just letting it be there. And as we begin to grow that capacity of allowing, life does get easier in the sense that we're able to meet it with less resistance, with less angst. We can just let it be as it is. It's okay. It's all right. We're doing our best. Okay, so we're all sitting on the ground. If you're sitting up in a chair, I encourage you to go to a couch so you can extend the legs out. I'm going to stretch the two legs out. You can lose my feet, but I'm sitting with the two legs forward. 2 feet are about hip distance apart. Knees are bent, so the knees are a little higher than the hips. They're about kind of navel distance, but whatever works for you, doesn't really matter. What I encourage you to do in your seat, as we extend the legs out, the tendency is the belly tightens. So what I'd like you to do is sit up as best you can, which requires a little bit of sense of pushing the bum down, trying to actively press down through the pelvis to create this rising up through the upper body, including this lengthening of the belly and elevation of the sternum. Yeah, so I want you to see, can you? And as you're doing that, it's going to bring more work to the pelvis. So quite often, one of the big issues for us in terms of the hips and tightness and wear and tear in the pelvis is we're not using it appropriately, and then it gets stuck in positions that will literally wear it down, where one little area in the pelvis overworks, and then we're on to wearing out cartilage and all that. So we push the bum down. There's an arch in the lower back. You might even check that out. You're trying to maintain that arch. which should feel a little bit like a valley in the lower back, where you have a sense of the muscle either side of the vertebrae. Now, the toes curl down toward the floor, and keep that general shape in the feet, but relax them a little bit more. Without moving the feet, I want you to push your heels down as best you can. And again, without moving, pull your feet towards you. Just see, can you create that? Now, some of you will notice this in the hips. You'll notice one side more than the other. You'll notice a tightness in the pelvis. It's just telling us what areas of the pelvis are overworking, which sides are overworking more than the other. And again, all of this is perfectly normal. So the toes are curling down, the feet are, I won't say they're relaxed, but they're certainly not working strongly. Hands go to the outside of the knees. As you pull your feet towards you, press your knees apart. Take a few deep breaths into the ribs. Shrug a little in the shoulders with the idea of all that space between the hips and the armpits getting longer. Throat open, we're not leaning the head forward, tightening the belly, we're trying to maintain all of that. Breathe 5, maintain it 4, keep pulling the feet towards you. Breathe 3, breathe 2, breathe 1, let it all relax. And again, curl the toes, press the heels down, pull the feet towards you, press the knees apart, take a few deep breaths. Get long, get tall, breathe 5, breathe 4, 3, 2, 1, and then relax again. Now, left knee bends deeper, left foot comes in, 2 hands on the left shin, top of the left shin, so you can interlace the fingers. Now, if you pull on that shin you're holding, you'll notice it automatically begins to create more of that length that we're working with. So maintaining that, the idea of actively pushing the bum down. I know we're heavy on what we're sitting on, but the idea of actively pressing down, it's not always easy to find. We're not used to working with these parts of the body in these ways. Do the best you can. Push the bum down, sit up, take a few deeper breaths, breathing into the armpits so the shoulders get to float up. We're not dropping the front body, dropping the head. We're trying to keep the length. Now, same thing with the extended leg. Heel pushes down, foot pulls towards you. Maintain that resistance. With the left foot, the closer foot, grip with the toes onto the floor, and the same pulling of the feet towards you without moving. Pull them towards you. Breathe into the ribs again. Breathe into the ribs. You're going to keep the right hand on that shin. You're going to turn to the left. Left fingertips can come to the floor. Breathe. Wherever the twist or the tightness is in the body, breathe into it. Now, you're not forcing and you're not straining. Whatever comes naturally in terms of the twist, whatever is available, breathe into what you're reading. Keep the length in the front body. Breathe 5. Breathe into the tightness. Breathe 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then come back through center and change feet. Change second side. And just take a moment. Relax as much as you can in the middle space, in the space between. Now, work the toes. So even that extended foot, the toes again are curling down as if they were gripping the earth. So you've got the heel of that foot on the floor, you pull it towards you, the toes and the closer foot grip and pull towards you. Take a deep breath, fill the ribs, little shrug in the shoulders, press the bum down. Stay with the breath. So we're going to keep the left hand on the right shin, turning to the right. We're trying to maintain the length of the front body, sense the front of the throat being open. Breathe into what you're meeting. Stay with it. Breathe for 5, for 4, for 3, and for 2. You got it. One more breath. And then come all the way back. And we're going to sit cross-legged for a few moments. If you can't sit cross, if it's too uncomfortable, if the knees are an issue, keep the legs extended or sit up higher. Close the eyes. Now, let the belly relax. Let the belly relax. Notice the breath. We're going to let the hands rest on the thighs. We're going to bring the index finger and thumb to just gently connect. We're breathing again through the nose. Okay. And we're going to use our imagination with our breath. So I want you to inhale through the 2 nostrils, hold for a moment, and then I want you to imagine you're exhaling through the right nostril, inhaling through the right nostril, hold, and then imagine the other side. Exhale through the left, inhale through the left, hold. Right side, exhale, inhale, hold. Left side, exhale, inhale, hold. And I want you to continue in this way for a couple of minutes. Just using the imagination. Doesn't matter what's happening, but just focus. Exhaling, inhaling one side. You hold the breath for maybe 3, 2, 1. And then you go to the other side. Exhale, inhale, hold. Keep going. Slow, steady breath. Stay with it. Nearly there. So the next time you exhale, inhale through the left nostril. When you go to take the next breath, normal breath. Just breathing normal. And when you get to that point of breathing normally, we're going to open the eyes and we're going to come on to our hands and knees, coming onto all fours. Hands and knees. So as you come on to hands and knees, let the hips sway a little. Breathe into the ribs. Particularly when you notice the tightness in the back of the ribs, I want you to breathe into that space. And as the hips sway, can the shoulders move a little? That's it. Very simple, very easy, fluid. Let the lower back and belly relax. Initially, you might notice a tightening in parts of the back. As you do that, but I encourage you then to breathe into those spaces and let the breath begin to dilate or open up those spaces. Just continue to move in this way. Notice where your head and neck are. They tend to get static. They tend to lock in a position that really isn't beneficial for them. So lift the neck, open the front of the throat, move the head a little, explore and feel and notice. Like a big part of the practice, rather than fixing anything, is the idea of noticing what's going on. It's like as you notice those parts that you maybe have disconnected from or closed off from, even in being held in the light of awareness, in that sense of awareness, begins to change some of the patterning that will hold resistance or tension or suffering, pain in the body. You know, it's the idea of being noticed, being included. And that goes for all these little parts of our body. The physical body, the emotional body, psychological body. When we get to see these parts of ourselves, something beautiful begins to happen. Something incredible begins to happen in terms of our well-being, our sense of inclusion, our sense of fulfillment, our sense of worthiness. Okay, so just pausing for a moment. Okay, without moving, push the legs, knees away from each other. Without moving, I want you to see if you can feel that sense of widening the pelvis. And as you do it, the idea of almost sticking your bum up a little, which will deepen the arch in the lower back. Breathe into the tightness in the ribs, into the tightness around the spine. Breathe into this space like a balloon filling, and push the earth away through the hands with more weight through the front of the hands, the fingers, the base of the fingers. And without moving the hands, pull them toward each other. Just notice all of that. Now, all of that work you're connecting to. I don't want it to be so much that you're struggling. So you might need to kind of, let's say, do 70% of what you're doing or 60% of what you're doing. So it's very sustainable, but you're still connected to the feeling of the engagement. Without moving the hips or changing the work in the legs, walk your arms toward the left. Just slowly arc to the left. So that right side begins to open up a little bit more length. And then the tightness that you connect to, just pause and breathe into that space. Pause and breathe into that space. Breathe into what you're doing. Notice where the head is, if it's dropped, drooped. So our tendency is to kind of collapse a little in the body. And part of this happens because we don't include all of the parts that maintain the buoyancy, the sense of lightness or spaciousness in our body. And we come back through center, in the middle, a little sway or shrug, almost like we just let go and we'll begin again. Push the knees apart, breathe into the ribs like a balloon filling up, press the hands down, pull them toward each other. Big breaths. Walk the arms in the other direction. Where you're meeting the tightness on this side, breathe into that space. Notice that space. Don't go to the point where you're forcing. You're just meeting it. You're not even asking it to change. Just meeting it is enough. Meeting it with the breath, meeting it with a particular quality of awareness. And this idea of acceptance I was talking about. That's ultimately what we're learning to meet ourselves with, be it the comfortable bits or be it the stuck bits. To meet them all with acceptance. So we let ourselves be where we are. And that then becomes the starting point for any growth or change or movement. Breathe for 3, breathe for 2, breathe for 1. And we'll come all the way back. We come right down to the forearms. Just interlacing the fingers, a little bit more comfortable being down here. I want you to notice the tendency is to shorten the space between the elbows and the knees, to kind of tighten the belly and round the back and drop the head. I want you to just open it up a little. So, just like we did before, lower back relaxes. You let the hips sway a little from side to side. Very simple. Elbows are underneath the shoulders. We can interlace the fingers if that's comfortable, but not necessary. Push the forearms down. Just like you did with the hands, as you press the forearms down, that sense of broadening the upper back, broadening of the shoulder blades. Now the neck also lifts, so you're not dropping or drooping the head forward. You're looking at the hands. You can feel, okay, I've got an arch in my lower back. Maintaining that, again, without moving, press the knees away from each other. Feel that widening activation in the hips. Now, one more thing without moving, pull your elbows backwards toward the knees. You notice the way the abdomen begins to get stronger, longer. Breathe into the tightness. Anything in the back, any holding, tightness, soreness, breathe into it. Breathe into it. So we're teaching our body how to hold itself. We're learning how to inhabit our body in ways that will maintain more freedom. And it's, it flows over then, because as we find that with our physical body, that realignment, that original template, also encourages the internal movement in the body in terms of all the chemicals that move, the production of chemicals, the movement of blood. So it really promotes vitality in our system. Perfect, and then let everything relax. We're going to come back up onto the hands. Now, if you find it sore on the hands, please feel free to stay on the forearms, no big deal. Very simple. We're going to lift the left knee and foot, open the knee to the side. Now, what you're trying to maintain is that arch in the lower back, sense of length in the belly, that fullness in the ribs. Make circles with the knee. Feel the movement in the hip. So if the belly tightens here, the back rounds, and the movement happens in the abdomen, and it's a mispositioning of the pelvis. So arch in the lower back, belly relaxed. Move that knee now in the other direction. Same knee, but other direction. Perfect. Bring that down. Other side. Very simple. Tilt the knee to the side. Begin to make circles. You're trying to isolate the movement to the pelvis, to the hip. Teaching all these places how to do their job. Creating integrity in the body between all those different parts. Move that knee in the other direction. Notice if one hip gets tired quicker than the other hip. Again, just giving you some information. All of that's perfectly normal. 2 knees down, lower back relaxed. Fill the ribs up, bring the weight forward in the 2 hands. So continuously training the body to redistribute. First side again, tilt the knee to the side, make circles. One direction. And then the other direction. And release. Other leg, other side. Circles in one direction. Other direction. Perfect. Bring it down. Again in the middle, back here. Just pause, let the hips sway. Breathe more deeply, shrug a little on the shoulders. We're going to go one more time. First side. Circles. Be in the hip. Just notice the movement of the pelvis. Other direction. And release. Second side. Open the out. One direction, other direction. Beautiful. And then release. Now we're going to lift all the way up. Oh, I'm going to use my hand if I come up. So you guys stay high on the knees, up on the knees. Okay, now when you get there, as little work as you can, close the eyes, relax the belly, let the shoulders, arms release. Just notice the breath in this position, up on the knees. Just tune into your breath. Notice the breath. Perfect. And then opening the eyes. We're going to take the hands to the ribs. So the fingers are at the front of the ribs. The thumbs are right at the back of the ribs. If this is too uncomfortable, you can wrap the arms around and have the hands on the ribs that way. So you work out what's comfortable, what's accessible. Now the hands are on the ribs, not on the waist. They're above the waist, on the ribs. And here, close the eyes again. Breathe into the hands. So you feel the movement of the ribs underneath the hands. And what I want you to work toward is a feeling of the ribs moving as one piece. Front, back, and sides. One piece, one movement. Stay with the breath. Perfect. Now, as you fill the ribs up, you can open the eyes. As you fill the ribs up, lift the ribs up, pull them away from the hips. One side, the other side. Notice the stretch in the waist or the belly, or even the lower back. Notice where the head is. It tends to not know how to be in connection to the rest of the body. So, sense of dignity in the front of the throat and where the head is held in relation to the rest of the body. Keep breathing into the hands, even pushing the hands in just to encourage the ribs to fill up, strengthening the tissue of the muscle. Okay, now as you fill the ribs and you've lifted them and you feel a little longer in the mid-region, arc over to the left. Just enough to feel a stretch on the right side. Breathe into the stretch. Breathe into it. That's it. Breathe 3, 2, 1. Come on back and fill the ribs again. Lift them up. Go to the second side. Perfect. Breathe and fill the ribs. Nice work. Come back to center. And then release the hands. And I'm going to get you to come back onto the hands and knees. Back onto all fours. Okay. And again, you keep it super simple. Lower back relaxed, belly relaxed. Ribs are filling, a little shrugging in the shoulders. So each time we go here, we've done a little bit more opening in different parts of the body. It's easier for the body to find alignments that are closer to its original template, which is so much about mobility, dexterity, freedom, lightness, spaciousness. Fill the ribs, push the earth away. As you press the hands down, press through the knuckles at the base of the fingers. Those knuckles, you can look at the bottom of the fingers, push mainly through them. So it's not pressing down through the wrist or the heel of the hand. Lift the neck, open the front of the throat, lower back relaxes again. Push the knees away from each other, feel that feeling in the hips. Okay, left knee tilts to the side. Left foot extends to the side, and I want you to bring the left foot down. First, if you even look at it, the big toe comes down, then the little toe. Try to anchor weight into the little toe. None of this is easy. You do whatever's available. Now, the left knee bends forward, and you sit the bum back. So you're maintaining that arch in the lower back as the knee goes forward and the hips go back. Fill the ribs, little shrug in the shoulders, ribs are full, like a balloon. We're going to walk the arm toward that extended leg. You're just going to arc. You might arc over an inch, 2 inches, a foot, it doesn't matter. When you get to where you get to, breathe into what you're needing. Breathe into the tightest spaces. Wherever they are, breathe. And breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then for 1. We're going to come all the way back, and as you get back to neutral, just sway, move, shrug, very simple. Now fill the ribs up. Fill the ribs in this hands and knees position. Let the lower back and belly relax. You've got that arch in the lower back. As the ribs expand, press the hands down, push down through the base of the fingers, again, the metacarpals, those knuckles. Grip with the tips of the fingers and the thumbs. Notice how that engages you up through the arm. So again, the softer tissue holding and aligning the skeleton and bones. Tilt the right knee out to the right. Belly stays relaxed, so you're not tightening and lifting the belly to move the leg. Hip is doing that. Move that knee in circles for a moment. One direction. Other direction. And then extend that right foot out to the side. Bring the big toe down, little toe down. Again, you can look. So you'll notice the big toe will come down easily. Little toe is trickier. It's a big stretch in the outer ankle, the outer shin. You do the best you can. As you bend the right knee forward, I want you to sit the bum back a little. Again, we're maintaining the arch in the lower back. So the thigh bone sits backwards in the hips. This is really helpful for the pelvis. Breathe into the ribs like a balloon filling up, a little shrug through the shoulders. Walk the two arms over toward the extended leg. You only go as far as is comfortable. And as you meet what feels tight, I want you to breathe into that space. Breathe into the tightness. Breathe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we come all the way back, all the way back. Let things sway or shrug or move, just releasing any tightness, any discomfort. Breathe. Okay, very simple. On this hands and knees position, bring your two legs over to the right. Let the hips lower down to the left. Okay, so obviously one hand is doing most of the work. Push that hand down. Remember the base of the fingers. Bring more weight forward in the hand. As you push the earth away, there's that lifting up through the body. We'll keep the other fingertips on the floor. Hips are heavy, legs are heavy. Without moving the arms, fill your ribs up. Pull the hands towards you. So if you're trying to drag the hands back toward the legs, so that tightness through the side of the body, that stretch is where you're breathing now. It's where the attention is. Breathe into that space. Breathe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then soften. And we're going to come back up onto hands and knees. Let things sway and shrug and relax. And kind of come back to what feels like a neutral position. Fill the ribs up. Move the knees in the other direction. And lower the hips down. You'll notice the tendency to kind of collapse a little in that weighted arm. Push the earth away. Fill the ribs up like a balloon. Really dignified in the upper body. Without moving, pull the hands towards you. Where the tightness is, again, is where you're breathing. Breathe for 3. Breathe for 2. Breathe for 1. And as you soften, come down onto your shoulder and roll all the way over onto your back. All the way over onto your back. Now, 2 knees are bent. 2 feet are on the floor, hands on the lower belly, just resting on the lower belly, close the eyes. Tune into that lower belly space. Just breathe normally. And just notice the movement in that space beneath the hands. Let the attention rest in that place. And like we did near the beginning of the practice, can you inhale for a count of 6 and exhale for a count of 6? And if you find that's too long, too much, you shorten. You breathe for 5 or 4, whatever works. The game is that you're comfortable and that the breath is slow and steady. There's a uniformity to the breath. And you're using as little effort as you can to breathe in this way. Slow and steady breath. Now stay with the breath. Inhale for 6, exhale for 6. And only if it's comfortable, I want you to bring the soles of the feet together and let the 2 knees drop apart. If it's catching, if it's uncomfortable, you don't do it. You just keep the legs where they were. Stay with the breath. Slow, steady breath. Stay with the breath. So without changing the breath, just slide one leg out and slide the other leg out. Let the feet stay a little wider than the hips. Stay with this breath. Inhale for 6. Exhale for 6. Stay with your breath. Stay with your breath. And stay with this breath, but drop the counting. Just stay with the longer breath. Drop any of the counting. And let the attention be so close to your breath. Be in the breath. Slow, deep, steady breath. Coming back to your breath. Stay with your breath. Now, after the next longer exhalation, let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Just a few moments here. No work, body completely relaxed, heavy on the floor. And then very simple, we're just going to bend the knees one at a time. Very easily roll over to the side. You can use your hand or your arm like a pillow and just get comfortable on your side here. Just pause here. Keep the eyes closed. Notice the breath. Just let the attention be close to your breath. Just staying here for a few moments. Staying with the breath. And then make your way back to sitting. Take your time. Get comfortable in your seat. And as you get comfortable in the seat, we're going to close the eyes again. Same kind of stuff we did at the very beginning. Remember, we kind of noticed the pelvis and pressed the bum down, took a few deeper breaths. So we're always looking for the most expanded or open version of ourselves. So a lot of the idea of the mind, the attention, the awareness, actively looking for a way of holding ourselves or inhabiting our body that is aligned or more aligned to freedom. And part of that, or a huge part of that, is beginning to recognize the tendencies and the habits that are contracted, that bring us into a particular alignment that has more to do with protection, contraction, than expansion and freedom. So our practice is reminding us to remind ourselves to look for, how do I hold myself? What position feels freer, feels more open? And we're trying to do it in ways that are integrated, in which the body is balanced and working as more of a system, more of a team. And as we continue to practice in this way, the body will remember how to hold that, how to maintain that, which will not only give us a greater sense of physical lightness, physical freedom, but it does the same in terms of the emotional and the psychological experience. We release a lot of the contractedness that keeps that sense of density or heaviness in our experience of life. So close the eyes here, let the attention come back to the breath, back to inhalation and exhalation. So the sound Om, Om. Yeah. Take a deep breath. As you're inhaling between the sounds, inhale through the nose, and let the inhalation be as long as the sound of the exhalation. We'll do 3 more. Just bring the hands together in front of the heart. So in the same way the hands come together and they meet evenly in front of the heart, in the same way that you feel the left and the right connecting in a way that feels balanced and even. This is what we're doing with all these different parts of ourselves. Through our practice, we're bringing them all back into balance, into homeostasis. And as we do that, the body will naturally begin to release what doesn't need to be holding on to. Old patterns, old imbalances. And we ask this in our practice to support us in this journey home, this journey back into equilibrium, back into balance, into well-being, into vitality. And you take the hands then up to lightly touch the forehead. And then the lips. And back to the heart. And to ourselves and to each other, to our practice. We bow our heads. Namaste. Good work. Thank you for sharing your practice. Of course, if you ever have any questions, feel free to get in touch and ask. I'm going to be doing actually a course, a breathing course, a 6-week breathing course at the beginning of November. That'll be out, or information will be out about that in the next couple of weeks. And then there's still some spaces on the day in November. We're doing a day on the 14th of November in Greystones. It's beautiful, beautiful space. So it'll be one of the first kind of physically coming together, and a lot of the work will be breathwork during the course of the day. It'll be movement, with a lot of focus on, again, regulating the nervous system and bringing all those different systems that can tend to get jarred, one dominant over the other, bringing them all back into balance by working with both movement and these stillness practices, meditation, breathwork, and same. So again, all of that information is on my website, michaelryanyoga.com. And if you want to pay or donate for the classes, you can also do that on my website. So it'd be great.